Noctaria was a city that never really slept. It couldn't. The sun was just a myth here, a story told to kids about a giant ball of fire in the sky. Instead, the city glowed with its own light, a soft, magical hum that came from thousands of soul crystals. These weren't just fancy rocks. They were the city's heartbeat. They lined the grand boulevards of the upper districts, casting everything in a shimmering, ethereal glow. The crystals pulsed with a gentle rhythm, powered by the magical energy of the city's inhabitants, their soul echoes. It was a beautiful sight if you were rich enough to live up there. Down below in the slums, things were different. The light here was weak, almost pathetic. The soul crystals were old, cracked, and sputtered like dying candles. They cast long, dancing shadows that made the cramped alleyways feel like a monster's throat, ready to swallow you whole. The air was thick with the smell of damp stone and something vaguely metallic. Life in the lower city was a constant struggle, a fight for scraps under the dim, flickering light. This was the world Riven Kaido knew. It was a world of shadows, where the bright promise of the upper city felt a million miles away, a different planet entirely. My name is Riven Kaido, and I was 17 years old. I lived in a tiny room that was more of a closet, with a leaky ceiling and a single sputtering soul crystal that gave off less light than a firefly. I was what they called a null. It was a nice way of saying I was useless, a magical dud. Everyone in Noctaria had a soul echo, a manifestation of their inner power that could do amazing things, create fire, mend objects, or even form protective shields. Mine, it was invisible. Zilch, nada. It was like being the only kid in the world who couldn't see color, except everyone else could, and they never let you forget it. The other kids in the slums made my life a living nightmare. Their leader was a brute named Kale, whose soul echo was a pair of rock-hard fists. "Look, it's the Null," he'd sneer, his voice echoing in the narrow street. "Still pretending you've got a soul, Kaido?" His friends would laugh, their own weak echoes flickering around them like cheap special effects. They'd shove me, knock my meager food supplies to the ground, and remind me over and over that I was nothing. I learned to be fast. I learned to be quiet. I learned to blend into the very shadows that everyone else feared. Despite everything, I had a dream. It was a crazy, impossible dream, but it was mine. I wanted to join the Soul Guard Academy. The academy was the most prestigious place in all of Noctaria, located high in the upper districts, a glittering spire that scraped the perpetual twilight sky. It was where the best and brightest went to train their soul echoes, to become protectors of the city, heroes. The Soul Guards were legends, with powerful, brilliant echoes that could light up the darkest corners of the city. They were everything I wasn't. Every day, I would find a spot on a rickety rooftop that gave me a clear view of the academy spire. I'd watch the cadets practicing in the courtyards, their echoes exploding in bursts of color and light. I studied them, memorizing their movements, the way they channeled their energy. I even had a worn-out, stolen textbook that I read by the dim light of my crystal until the pages were soft and frayed. I practiced the stances and the breathing techniques, even though I had no power to channel. Kale and his gang thought it was hilarious. They'd say I was practicing how to look stupid. The dream felt more like a fantasy, really. The academy didn't accept nulls. Why would they? It would be like a school for swimmers accepting someone who couldn't get wet. My chances were less than zero. But the thought of it was the one thing that kept me going. The idea of proving everyone wrong, of standing tall in a Soul Guard uniform, my own echo blazing brightly for all to see. It was a flicker of hope in the overwhelming darkness of my life, a tiny soul crystal of my own that I kept hidden deep inside my chest. My only real friend was a little girl named Ilara. She was 6 and she didn't care that I was a null. She just saw me as Riven, the guy who sometimes shared his stale bread with her. She had a tiny flickering soul echo that looked like a little butterfly, and she was always chasing it through the grimy streets. She believed in my dream too.